don't do enough of. But why don't you give everybody a little intro to yourself, and then we'll get into some questions.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, Bunny, for that. And it was awesome hanging out with all the certified partners in Austin. I've been in Austin like 6 times last year, so it was fun. A lot of barbecue. So a little bit about me. The agency world, I've been in it for a long time, now over 8 years. And I started when I was like 19 or 20 years old, just building relationships locally. And that's where it started as a social media expert, specifically on lead gen for Facebook lead gen generation, building landing pages and just running traffic, testing things and getting leads. That was the main focus until it just became then an agency. Then I had media buyers and then I had contractors. So that's just like the background from that marketing world.
Awesome. Now, in terms of the networking leadership side, how did that kind of evolve from having your agency for so many years?
Oh man, the relationship aspect of me just connecting with people, just with authenticity of being yourself and less of talking about what you offer in the world of networking, just connecting with other people locally. And that transitioned to relationships around the world. When I say that, it's just because it took me so much time to build those relationships from Germany, Dubai, Saudi Arabia, LA, even Korea. There's like, I have some, relationships there because those relationships, if it's friends or just partners or power partners or other agencies also, because that's like one of the key things that in the beginning, after like 3 years, like not connecting with other agency owners and building those relationships, because you never know when you need that relationship because of a bigger client, or maybe there's an issue that you can't take on. So that's was a huge win for me.
That's awesome. Well, I remember during your speech, I asked a question, or you actually mentioned how you set up your commission structure with these do you call them power partners? Is that kind of the commission relationship?
Yes. So the commission aspect is, when I talk about power partners, these are people within your niche that know your niche very well. They sell to your niche, and they basically have your whole customer databases with them. And the relationship with them is they can just connect you to their customer, have a discovery call, or have whatever you want to call it, consulting call, and you just build a relationship. And if you get to gain a client from that relationship, the power partner, if it's a CPA, business attorney, or an HR department, or it could be in the world of marketing, it could be another agency, where you structure the commission based on, my commission state is between 15%, 10%, 50%. Just depends on the deal. Sometimes if the deal is a good lucrative deal, we give out a bigger commission up front rather than giving it on a monthly basis. Just, this is the big commission, just take the whole commission. Or the other way is just, as long as the client stays with us, we'll give you a commission. And there is a lot of people out there that are happy to connect you to others and get a commission.
Yeah, no, I know personally, because I had my agency for 6 years and I still have a bunch of clients that I don't want to serve because I left that business because I didn't like it. I wanted to teach marketing. That's why I started my agency. So now I'm setting up these relationships. So I'm very interested in just the, kind of formal aspects, because giving somebody, say, a $30,000 referral, what can I expect from that? What are my expectations for, say I gave you this $30,000 referral. What can I expect to get in return? And how do I know, or how do you kind of assure me that you're going to take care of that person?
Are you talking about the connection? How do they trust you right away?
Yeah, I'm more interested, and we'll get into the relationship side of it, but more like, how do you set up that structure, and how does the person know that you're going to take care of the person I just referred? Like, do you send them hey, here's an update, we've been working together for 60 days, here's what I've done for them? Or is it more just like a handshake, here's $500, thank you?
So let's say someone is like, basically you onboard a client for, let's say it's Facebook ads, and they're giving you as an agency 3,000 a month plus the ad budget, which is, let's say, for example, it could be 100, like 3,000, could be 6,000, could be 10,000 a month, depending on the big budget if they have. That 3,000 that you get as an agency every single month, you're giving them 15%. Now, the way we structure that the power partner does not, there's no like connection with the client. We're not updating them about the results. We might maybe give them like, hey man, this is what exactly is happening with the client. Look at the results if you want to see them, just because you connected us. That's, you know, getting them excited to refer us more, because they look at us, either agencies or other power partners would look at us as resource. And it's like, oh, I would love to do that for my other clients, and increase their traffic, increase their revenue, increase their bottom line. And that's how that really helped.
Okay. So it's more just handshake, like, thank you for the business. And then you just send them, you send them a check. I'm sorry, again, the technical aspects, but I'm always like, okay, I'm going to set this thing up. So what can I expect? Do you just do PayPal recurring payments, or do you literally send them a check, or do you hand them an envelope full of cash? Like, how does it work?
To some people, because of the rate of like this transaction, ACH, we just connect an ACH, and because the percentage is much lower, if the deal is bigger, so that they can take the commission itself. And then there's of course other ways. If it's like simple ways, my team just sends them Stripe or PayPal specifically, and we just send them through that. But the thing is, when you send it, there's like this transaction fee. So it depends on how big of the deal is. So PayPal, ACH, those are like my two parts that we send. That you could go the easy way, send it a check, make it easy and simple. But you know, sending a check takes time.
No, yeah. I was just thinking, like, man, if I got an envelope full of cash, I'd be pretty happy. I'd be like, yeah, that was a good referral. So, you know, in terms of, say, I don't know, you don't have to say like your numbers in terms of how many of these referral partners you have, but what would you say is the average amount of referrals you get from your like good, you know, top 5 power partners?
Based
You can just
on,
make, I mean, it doesn't be official. You can just estimate
because
it.
everyone is different. So, because again, thinking of the persona avatar and knowing how big is the client, and how much we could take as larger clients that take loads of work and loads of resources, between two to 5 referrals a month, where I'm talking about good referrals. Okay, good referrals. And just for the people that are listening to this, this takes time. It's not, I'm not like, this is not easy. This is building relationships. But it does work over time. It does work where you start building those relationships, people trust and like you, and they know exactly what you do, your case studies and all that stuff. And then you start getting these, this is like, it starts working. And it started working up after a couple of months when you completely build relationships with people that actually trust you.
Well, I thought, well, and that 2 to 3 or 2 to 5, or, you know, that's solid, you know, in terms of gain referrals, because, you know, a referral is always going to be a better lead. What's your conversion rate with those referrals compared to like that cold lead?
Oh my God. I mean, referrals easy. That's like, that's not a sales call. That's more of a strategy call, and let's go. That's more to it. Of course, not everyone is going to convert, but it's an easier, it's a much easier close, much easier. The close happens by itself.
Nice. So in terms of just forming these relationships, because it sounds like they just know you probably chat with them on a regular basis. They're your friends, you know. Do you, I don't know, how many touch points does it take to form one of these kind of power partners? Actually, I think that's what we call in BNI too, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, let's you know, the BNI aspect, they have like this whole other thing, but I got away from that because it's a little bit different than that. It takes around, it could take 2 to 3 calls to build that relationship. And then the most important part is the nurturing. And the talk is based on what they do, how they do it, how could you help them? You know, in BNI, they talk givers gain, right? Givers gain. And it doesn't have to be a transactional thing where it's you give them a referral right away, but it could be a referral that you're helpful. And then, organizing those relationships in a CRM, whatever CRM you're working, writing those notes, because that was my biggest mistake. My biggest mistake is not writing documented notes around these people that are experts, and knowing, and you could build this over time where you have all these relationships over the years, that you should start, connecting with them over and over again and sending them resources. Oh, I remember when we talked about this specific thing, and send them that resource. It's just nurturing relationships.
Nice. So your CRM, what's your favorite tools in that regard in terms of this, partnership relationship management?
Are we talking about specifically what's the CRM that I'm using?
Sure.
Okay, so we went all over the place with CRMs in the beginning, but I'm sticking with Go High Level, where all my stuff is in Go High Level. That's one. But to talk about documentation, I use Notion as my second brain, where you put all your information in one place. Your notes, whatever notes you have, where I have my, sometimes I put my notes there where my assistant sees the notes and then she copies the notes and pastes them in the CRM. I'm not quite sure if everyone understands like the Notion world and project management and all that stuff. That has saved me so much time just documenting notes with clients or with relationship building.
Nice.
ClickUp is great.
We use Notion.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can have a combination because we use Notion for kind of our formal documentation. So when we're drafting stuff, we usually just use Drive, like, okay, we're proposing this SOP or whatever it is. And then it's like, okay, we're locking it in, and then we put it in Notion, and that's the book.
Yeah. Yes.
But definitely, Go High Level, you've heard a ton of people using that for CRM. I used monday.com. So that was my
Monday's great. Monday's awesome. ClickUp is also awesome. My Substack of technology is ClickUp, Notion, Things. Yeah, that's basically it. Notion, ClickUp, and Things. Things is for Apple users. Todoist is another thing, another app that for Todoist and stuff like that. But that's a huger topic to talk about productivity. But definitely ClickUp is it's a good one, and Monday's a good one.
Nice. Now, in terms of nurturing, because I was in real estate when I was in college, and so nurturing was always a big thing with like your past clients and your prospects, and you would send out gifts, if you sold a house to somebody or whatnot. Do you do that kind of stuff with your power partners, like send them a cool gifts every so often?
So this is my favorite one. So it's like the easiest. There's a lot of different websites out there for sending gifts for clients and all that stuff, but the easiest way for me to do this is you just need to know the address. Amazon, that's easy. Send a gift through Amazon. It's the easiest way. It's quick. It gets there quick because it's Amazon. You could just, put Amazon cups. I'll tell you this really quick story. I'm at a relationship. This guy's been in business for a long time, and we had a great conversation. And on his LinkedIn, it had this phrase. It said something that he loved saying it. So on Amazon, you could buy this cup and customize it and put a word on it in like under 10 minutes or under 5 minutes. And I sent it. It took like 10 minutes, but it's a really good relationship that I want to build. Things like that. Things that people are not willing to do, that extra thing that we think is like, it's not gonna do anything, but it does. It does do a lot because it's different. Sending mailers or gifts like that, Amazon, 100%. Yeah. There's endless of gifts.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I think Dennis Yu, when he came one time, he sent me a pair of socks with my face on it. Like that's his thing. So I gave it to my wife for our anniversary. I don't know what she did with it. I haven't seen her wear it though. But going down that line, actually, before when I had my agency, I had a winery that we worked with. And so what we did was I bought a bunch of wine from my client and then packaged it up and gave it to the rest of the clients and said, hey, this is from this client. And I send them back to the brand that created it. So, getting creative like that, I think is a great idea, especially if you could take your clients' products and give it to other clients to show like, hey, and here's another person I helped. There you go. That one, actually, I think that was right before I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I went the fractional CMO route. But no, that always works. And just personally, I don't know about you guys, but when I get a gift, like a significant gift from somebody, it's like, I'm like, whoa, this is awesome. Now there is the
Yeah.
flip side where you have like my father-in-law, he gets ridiculous gifts and he doesn't even notice. He just hands them out to people because they're like, oh, here's a $500 basket of, wine and chocolate. And you're like, oh, you're a jerk. Who gave this to you? You're like, don't know and don't care. But yeah, for most clients, especially that personalized, I like the personalized approach because it's affordable, shows a lot of thought went into it, and
Yep.
it's easy. That would be
Yes.
my vote.
And the connection is like, this is where the taking the notes is so important, because I forget like quickly. So taking the notes and making sure, like, I have, I don't know if anyone who has a virtual assistants or a virtual, leveraging your time and saving a lot of time around your note taking and how you write the notes, and then what are the action items. And you could just leverage your virtual assistant to help you send the gift out, by having access to your Amazon and just cart the right address, done, simple. I mean, this is a budget. I mean, like, let's think about it and more number wise. And like, let's say you build 3 to 4 relationships a month. And every single person you're meeting, let's say it's like those 4, like, wow, I really like this person. I want to build a relationship. I think we could work together. And that's like under $100, just under $100. You could send gifts to those 4 people under $100. It's nothing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, just giving stats and numbers.
So we've kind of talked a lot about the, nurturing of those relationships, but how do you identify somebody who is a potential power partner? I know it's like if somebody gave you a referral, of course, that's somebody, but do you have like a certain personality type or industry or specialty that you're like, these are potential good power partners, and then you try to actively search those people out to set up the partnerships?
Specifically, I mean, let's say, for example, it's there's other business attorneys that you could talk to in a specific niche that have your ideal clients, or it could be someone that knows a group of people. Their connections might lead to another connection. It's like a tree. It's a huge tree. And this is why I never, like, every single person is an opportunity to connect, because it's like this tree. All these wires are like connected. And that's how I look at relationships and power partners. Because one power partner is that what I'm looking for is, can I help them? Can I refer them? Can I give them resources? Can I connect them? Can I send them a client? Can I refer them to one of my clients that they could gain more value? And if I could do that, I will do an introduction. And this is to how to introduce people to people. The last 2 years, I've been using Loom to introduce people to people. It's a really simple way where it's quick and easy. You don't have to type an email, where I put quick video, introduction, and then put their LinkedIn, and one person's LinkedIn and the other person's LinkedIn. Please connect. Happy connecting. Simple. And it's a Loom video under 1 minute saying why they should connect. That itself had brought me a lot of value to myself, but also to a lot of people. So people that partnered up together. I said that in the Certified Partner Day. It's like so many people just partnered up. But identifying your power partners, those strategic relationships that could help you and you could help them, based on your niche, based on what you're trying to build. And sometimes it doesn't have to really be specific around your niche. Sometimes it's around the relationship, that what are the value that they could bring to you, because their tree of relationships could bring you more value. I hope that made sense, because it's
it all makes sense just abstractly, but I think if we could bring it into like specific examples, like what have you done for one of your power partners?
So let's give you an example of a CPA. One of my CPAs that I know for the last probably 7 years, is I connected him to one of my clients that owns basically a payment processing company, and their niche is restaurants. That's my client, for example. This is the best. And then we have the CPA. He also works with restaurants. So it's a great connection of connecting them. They add value to each other. Is that a good example, Mark?
Yeah, well, and maybe just like what they got out of it. Like you referred somebody, they got this client.
They started referring each other. They
Okay.
started referring each other. So they started making money together, because now they're referring each other to someone else. Other than you making money, it's not about you getting referrals. It's about, you want to be remembered for who you can actually connect. Not just you taking the relationship and it's only for you and that's it. No, who else can you connect them to? People want to, remember you for not just what you've done for them, it's who you connected them to. Other than that, like, these are relationships that you build over time.
That makes sense. Yeah, for me, I'm always just trying to systematize and then, get an ROI out of the method, right? So it's like with the content cert, where the content, for most people, it's a very abstract process. You just do it, and sometimes it works and maybe it doesn't, but who knows? But if you start taking content as like, okay, it's a serious marketing method. And if you look at serious marketing methods, where you look at like paid media is always the example of a serious, scientifically driven marketing method. How can we apply that to other marketing methods? So I'm trying to take your, power partner referral network as like, okay, this is a serious marketing method. How much investment have I can put into it in terms of time, money, effort, emotional commitments, all that kind of stuff. And then what am I going to get out of it? And is it, because it kind of seems like it's a primary marketing method for you. And it was for me too, because I did BNI, I did chambers, I did, the gifts, I did all the networking things. And so that was like 100% of my marketing was networking.
Yeah.
In terms of that, do you think it's possible to do networking in addition to other methods, or is it kind of like it's either your primary method or not?
So as we're ending it's end of the year, holidays is coming in. To strategize and have a strategy is like, I look at my quarters, like we have 4 quarters of the year, and then what are the conferences? You have your conferences, big conferences that you might have to travel. And then you have your local conferences, and then you have your networking groups that could be locally, Chamber of Commerce. Now, when I speak to a lot of people about Chamber of Commerce and BNI and LATIP, it does work. It just, you didn't fully work it. I'm saying that because I get to meet a lot of people in the world of networking, all these groups. Your ideal client might not be there, but someone could connect you to someone and lead to a client. So strategy-wise, as identify for your next 90 days, what are the conferences that you want to go to? What are the local networking groups you want to be a part of, either chamber or associations, or there's LATIP, there's BNI. I would not join chapters right away. I would visit chapters around your area and see if the energy in the room connects with you and the people make sense. Do not join a group just to join a group. No, join the right groups. It takes a lot of time to find the right group, and you could just visit as a guest from group to another group. So we have LATIP, we have BNI, we have Provisors. Provisors are great. So these are 3 kind of well-known in the States specifically. Now there's a lot of other names. If you just search this on Google, if you go to, for conferences specifically, the number 10, 10x, 10 times, 10times.com, you can find all the conferences around the world. That's specifically 10times.com, 10times.com specifically. That will help you a lot to identify what kind of groups. And then of course we have Meetup and then Eventbrite, that will show you a lot of these in-person conferences or on Zoom. In-person is probably the best because that's where you build quicker relationships. On Zoom, it does take time because you're meeting on Zoom and then you have to have another meeting and then another meeting. In person is like there's this instant connection, just based on my timeline of working with networking online, because during COVID time, I was like always on Zoom. Now to break this down strategy, I just gave you guys where to find it, what kind of events you can go to, and strategize what kind of events you would like to go in the next quarter or the next year. You could go to, let's say, for example, 4 different events next year, 4 different events, and that could help you a lot in the local chapters. The next step is, after identifying where you want to go and you block that out, is when you get to network, you're going to have to build these relationships. You're going to be connecting around 20 to 30 people, minimum 20 to 30 people. Out of those 20 to 30 people, you're going to have like around 5 Zoom calls. Out of those 5 Zoom calls, you're going to continue building those relationships as you go every single week. Now, let's break it down all the way to my weekly outcomes. Every Monday since I began, on my calendar, I have 90 minutes. I look at my database of my relationships and I ask the questions, who can I connect to who? Every Monday for 90 minutes. Remember, just 90 minutes. And I do that. That's like probably 5 to 10 different emails I sent. And that strategy helped me so much.
Wow.
I just gave you like my whole kind of like till like the weekly aspect, what I do. Because as I build the list of, you're going to be networking, you're going to be building relationships, you're going to get all these contacts. It's a lot of people. So you got to organize it and then list it and put them on a list on Notion or Google Sheet, make it simple. And then just say, who can I connect? Who is the ideal client for this person? Or who's a power partner for this person? Because you can just connect people because of their story or their resources and so on. So that's kind of, Mark, what I just gave is like kind of like the SOP of this process.
A framework, you know.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you described, so you have your macro environment where you go to, you know, big conferences in other locations, maybe quarterly. You have your micro environment, which is starts with the process of vetting groups, BNI, the chambers, the subgroups of business industries, and so on and so forth. Then you have your daily and weekly tasks that involve, okay, who did you meet? What's the connection? Get your notes, get all your contact information in your CRM, and now follow up with, you know, regular contacts, gifts, nurturing, and then, you know, the admin side would just be paying those people to make sure they're happy.
Yes, based on the referrals,
that sounds
based
like
on
a
the
solid
relationship.
system. Not a small amount of work, but I think,
no,
you know,
it's not.
Well, let's talk about some of the side benefits that you get from the networking, because you can, of course, get referrals. That's one aspect, but I think you also get, you know, connections for finding maybe industries that you might like. You might find niches that you might like that you never would have been exposed to, because, you know, unless you're talking to all these people, how else would you find them? And then you get that exposure opportunity from. Do you speak at all these groups, or do you have an end intent to, okay, I'm committed to this group, I'm networking within this group, now I want to get in front of more people in this group, and then you actively pursue speaking engagements like you have with Digital Marketer?
Yes, you could do these just small different. So when you go into these conferences, again, it just depends on what kind of conference you're going to. Online, you could connect with the people that are organizing. Like, you want to connect with the organizers of the conference, because the organizer basically knows everyone. And, you know, I spoke to an organizer that was in this data, like it's a data center. My client invited me to go to this conference, so I went to it. It's not my niche, but I said, you know what, let's go. And it was a data center conference. All these data centers around the world were there. And it was so fascinating to be a part of that. And the one person out of the whole event that I wanted to connect with is just one person, is the organizer. The reason why is because this person knows everyone. I don't need to go and talk to everyone. That's not my goal. My goal is to connect with a couple people, build deep relationships, connect with them, and after we meet, take the next meeting, connect with them, the next meeting on Zoom. That's basically how I do it. And just connect with a couple people. You don't need to connect with everyone, because those organizers know the people that you need to be connected to, either in the conference or outside of the conference.
Nice. Now, when you find somebody, okay, you found somebody, they want to, you know, they're a potential network partner. What's your call to action? Like, what's the, you know, engagement? What's the subscription? Like, how do you get them to the next stage? Do you say, hey, let's set up a meeting and chat? Or do you have a specific, you know, hey, I love your company. I have this idea I want to run by you. I'm just trying to figure out, like, how do you get them to take you seriously and actually meet with you to even give you a shot at networking with them?
Yeah, that's a great question, Mark. That's a really good question. So after we meet, if we're meeting in person, so this is an example. If you're meeting people in person, I usually always take a picture with them. Always, because a name I can't remember much, but a picture I can remember everything. Picture makes them remember, and I send it as an email or send it as a text to connect with them, depending on what's your communication method, because this is This could be very overwhelming if you go via text. Okay. It could be very overwhelming if it's on text. So send them the picture. It's a pleasure to connect with you. I would love to connect with you and know more about your story and see how I could possibly connect you to other of my power partners or other, maybe my clients. I have no idea, but let's just connect. It's that simple. And your energy and frequency around how you talk about that or send a voice message around that is so important, because if they know and they will feel if you're being salesy, they will feel it 100%. So your energy and how you send the text, and the buffer between times and how you send the text, because sometimes we get texts and people are like, bing, 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 and it's like too much. So you got to be careful from that, because it's a dance. It's about the rhythm. I don't know if anyone, again, I'm always going to give the salsa example, salsa example. It's a dance, knowing the rhythm, and the rhythm around text communication. It's all about the rhythm. We can't have metrics around rhythm. It's this energy, it's back and forth. It's like, and that's what I want you guys to understand, because there's no one perfect way, but your intention and how you send the text, would love to connect with you and see if I can connect you to my clients, if I could actually connect you to some of my power partners, and see how we could collaborate. Word collaboration works a lot, actually. Collaborate. You can collaborate on a podcast. You can collaborate on whatever, on a relationship, another agency owner. You could say, hey, look, this is what I do. This is my skill set. I just do SEO, and SEO is my thing. Oh, and you do YouTube ads? Great. Let's connect. I think we could actually prefer business to each other.
Nice.
Yes.
Love that. Well, and I like how you did the picture one. I think is a great idea. I use that personally because, like, with the TNC conference, I was like, there's no way I'm going to remember 90% of the people I meet. It's just impossible. So I always do the picture, and then I text immediately and say, hey, here's this. And then the other tip, if you have a podcast, that's usually the easiest way to connect with people, because you say, I have a podcast and I would love to have you come on and talk about whatever. Nobody's going to say no to that. Or I've never had anybody say no. Now I do have people I send the link to and they never register, but for the most part, it's like, and then I quote numbers because it's easy for me. Like, we have 1 million emails and we have 50,000 downloads a month and we have 500,000 Facebook followers. And so it's easy for me. It's like, who would say no to that? But but literally any exposure is good exposure. So if you do have a podcast and you say, hey, I only work with super inspirational, awesome, attractive, and you just list a bunch of good traits, and would you like, I think you're perfect for it. Like, it would be hard for anybody to be like, no. So podcast. And if you guys want to talk to us about who does this actively, Jay Vix on his podcast, he does a great job, and that's how he actually gets a lot of his clients, as he invites prospects onto and say, hey, love your business, love your following that you've done, could you come in and tell people about it? Easy in. So well, I feel like I've hogged the entire session. Do we have questions out there? I know Mickey's
and just Mark, I just want to add this really important part that is very important, just as you guys build relationships in the world of relationships, which takes time, and it's not for everyone. FYI, it's not for everyone. You have to find your way that works for you. Remember that, because in the beginning I felt like, oh, this is the one way that I got to do it. No, there's many different ways to gain clients, guys. Many different ways. Most importantly, after I built relationships, making sure that when people search you up on Google, it's relevant based on who you are. There's some kind of resonance with what you say and who you are online. People will search you up, and that itself will build a lot of authority around what you say and how you say it. If it's YouTube, Google, whatever that is, make sure that it's relevant. Your Instagram profiles, all that stuff, because there's people that say something and then I search them up and that's like, it's not relevant. Something is off. That itself will break the trust. FYI. So in the online content, your online content, just some kind of content around you helps so much, a lot. So that's I wanted to make sure I leave that on that side.
Then the other big tip is, even if you don't know the people on LinkedIn, just send them a pitch immediately. No, I'm kidding. Don't ever do that. I was just like, man, because well, what's funny is sometimes the pitch is decent where you're like, that's good, but then now by default, I just won't respond because I'm like, we don't know each other. Like, I really say something, or the other part that I really don't like is when people say like, I looked at your profile and you're perfect for this. And I usually go back with like, why am I perfect for this? And what did you see on my profile? Because they're lying. And then I usually just disconnect right off the bat. Cause I'm like, why does this work ever? I must work sometimes doing that kind of
Yeah.
cold, horrible, pitchy thing. Like, oh, you're perfect for blah, blah, blah. But all I can think
Yeah.
is just working for people who don't know anything. Like,
Yeah.
oh, sure. Or are new to LinkedIn, which
Yeah.
ruins the experience for them. So what do you do instead of that? If you actually Bonnie has a raised hand. Let's get another question in here.
Yeah, we've got a question from Mickey in the chat. She says, I've heard of people using VAs to do research and look for strategic partnership prospects online to streamline the process. Do you have any experience in outsourcing parts of this process?
Yes, I do. The thing is, I think it's the same thing as a sales call. You have to do a lot of sales call, like 1,000 sales calls for you to actually understand and then actually show it to someone else. Only if that's exactly what they do. I trained my virtual assistant to find, to look, to connect with. So it has to be based on who the people you want to connect with, because it's not anyone could do this. It's not. I tried different strategies with other virtual assistants. You have to kind of share the experience, because just connecting for the sake of connecting and sending a message, people feel that it didn't work for me. So again, coming back to you and your story and how you want to connect with them is really, really important, because everyone is different.
Good answer. Let's see. In terms of VAs, because you mentioned you have an assistant, is that full-time like employed assistant,
Yes.
or do you have?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I have 5 people with me.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, 5 people, from editing to social media stuff to content. So, and the thing with that is, over time, you don't need a big team, and it doesn't have to be that expensive for agency owners. Like, we can't, like, at some point we have to look at our budgets and how we could spend around our content and our marketing, because it all adds up. Like, virtual assistant and another person, it's like, oh, now I'm spending like 5,000, 10,000 a month on just virtual assistants. It gets expensive sometimes. So knowing exactly the areas of responsibility that you need now, that is, again, the quickest way to cash for you, whatever you need now. Because we could get this shiny object, virtual assistant, and this, and then we're still like, we're paying money, but there's no output. Your output needs to be there. How much output you put out there, how much connections, how much relationship, how much you give out is how much you get. Output, input, output, input.
No, that's a great point. Well, and I think for the VA thing, like, I recommend, if you've never had an assistant, like, you need an assistant in person is probably the best case scenario, because for you to be able to figure out, if you don't have processes set up, if you've never had an employee and then you immediately try to go to a VA in the Philippines or wherever, you're not going to be as useful as if you just hired somebody part-time. They're in the office, they're asking, what do I do now? And you're like, oh crap, I didn't even think about that. Like, what do I have to do for you? Like, oh yeah, I could have you do this task. Then you start formulating the processes, and then you could, outsource it externally. And this is just for people who've never had anybody, because it's not what you think it is, in terms of like, oh, they'll just tell me how they can help me, because that's not the assistant's or the VA's job. They're there to do what you tell them to do, not the other way around. So
Exactly.
and
just with virtual assistants, to make sure, like, to the question, based on research, having a virtual assistant from the Philippines changed like my whole, like, it helped me a lot focus on what's really important. But also having someone in person is also really helpful for other things. But really, from like, if you're at the right time and you need a virtual assistant to do the stuff that you don't need, hire one. Part-time.
yeah,
Test it.
great. No, that makes a ton of sense. Well, and I do think, because I've heard this from people too, where they're like, well, can I outsource the networking process? Can I outsource the sales process? And unless you're like at a much higher level, I'd say no, you shouldn't do that. And I'm a little bit
No.
biased because I'm in Texas, and in Texas, like, the business owner, like it's a thing. Like they do not want to talk to anybody else. They want to shake your hand. They want to know you and what you are and what you stand for. And I think that's starting to grow, everywhere now, where it's kind of like, okay, yeah, that's neat that you have a cool brand, and that's neat that you have a staff, but I want to talk to the person in charge. And if I can't do that, then we can't be partners, definitely. And I might not do business with you at all. So it depends on the model, because you could get
Yeah.
away with I think everybody's dream is like, oh no, I have a sales team and they bring in all the money and I just cash checks and that's all I
Yep.
do. And it's like,
Yep.
I've never run a business like that. I've always been out in front. But I think, yeah, the networking model, definitely, like, do not try to outsource it. Do not send your VA or your personal assistant to BNI and expect them to make all the connections for you. Because when I was in BNI, I saw people try to do that too, where it was like, oh yeah, I work with this person. I'm like, oh, you're not the owner of the business? Like, okay, you have no decision-making power and you might not even be here next week. So I'm not going to partner with you. So I think
Yep.
you have to actually do the thing.
100%.
Check casher. It's hard because we're inundated, especially as marketers, you're inundated with the, 7-figure marketing business that I hardly work on. And I use Chat GPT and then I don't even work ever. And it's like, all they're doing is selling courses about whatever the hell they're trying to make money off
Yeah.
of. And that's it.
I mean, it's true. All these strategies, again, all of them take time. All of them. All of them take time. I like all these courses online and going through all these quickest way to, organic strategy or having setters or outreaching on LinkedIn. All of them take time. And in my journey, you have to find what's your unfair advantage. Like that's one of the most important parts.
Yeah.
Like what is your unfair advantage? Because you might have resources that you already have that someone else doesn't have. Use them. Because in the beginning, I didn't know what I didn't know, and I should have just used my resources much more. So yeah.
Well, and that's why I like the systems, because if you said like, okay, I don't really understand the networking thing, but I understand go to 4 conferences a year. And I understand I need to select a local group and one local group with people I actually like. And I understand I need a database of these potential referral partners that I could hit up every so often or add to a list of people I could refer to, then they could potentially become a referral partner. All that stuff is not that time consuming, and really you'll have ideas that you'll never have before just by doing those few steps. And then you could get into the, more formalized systems, the commission arrangements, the, ongoing nurturing programs. But if you just want to try it, I'd say everybody should, hey, go to 4 conferences in 2023, join one local group, and it'll take some time. It'll probably take, if you add the conferences in, say 2 days per conference, so you're looking at 8 days plus say a 1-hour business meeting a week, before and after, say 3 hours. So 3 times 52 is 150 hours. And then you have, your 8 days on top of that. So it's not a small amount of time. It's probably 2 weeks that you're talking about. And then there you go.
Yeah. And opportunities everywhere. Don't forget that. You getting a
Certified
copy?
partner training day. Thank you, buddy.
Yeah, that 100%. There's a lot of certified partners that are awesome that I also connected with and sent referrals to. Actually, also great way to connect, and also opportunities everywhere. Everywhere you go, there's opportunity. Just remember that. Just getting a cup of coffee.
Oh yeah, again, well, but as long as you have that approach, because if you guys listen to Dustin Reichman's podcast or the agency talk that he was on, he says like, here's how I approach podcast guesting, and he had this format and this pitch and all this kind of stuff. That kind of thing, when you formalize your approach, makes a huge difference, and people notice it, and you get better at it. That way you're not just randomly like, oh, I do websites, I do marketing. Like, okay, so, like just a couple minutes of thought, and then your approach will become like, oh man, yeah, I met this guy told me about this and then this, and then he took me to this and then blah, 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 then you're starting to make an approach. And also I will tell all of you that I rarely have people contribute information, come on the podcast, or recommend to the TNC stage if they don't come to our community events. So if you've never come to a certified partner training day and you've never met me in person, there's a good chance I will not have you anywhere because you didn't come to our thing. And that's the start, And then if you do come to the thing, make sure you talk to me personally. Like, hey, I'm this person. I'm like, oh, hey, how are you? That will shake in the hand. It's not like a passing thing. It's an important thing. And you should try to do that everywhere you go. Meet the owner, meet the manager. It makes a huge difference. Cool. So any other questions? Gabe, you got anything? You got a cool shirt on. I like that. What does the say? Cash flow.
Cash flow is king.
King. There you
Cash
go.
flow is- yeah.
That's awesome.
Cash flow is king.
All right. Well, I think that was great. Like I've always said, I'm a huge fan of networking. At Digital Marketer, we have our multiple communities. The communities are all connected, and the more involved you get with them, the more likely you are to get things out of it. And as always, I'm always looking for contributors. So your articles will not go to waste if you want to do that. We're also opening up in next year is the ability to contribute videos. So, currently it's a lot like come on the podcast or send us an article. We're going to add in, hey, send us a video. And then we'll basically give you a tutorial on how to shoot the videos so that we could put it on our YouTube channel. And then we'll start that process. But we'll have kind of like minimum quality standards, and, the look has to look like the brand. So I'll send everybody guidelines to that, but that's start networking. Then set up your events. Choose 4 today that you're going to go to in 2023. Well, 3 other ones, then Traffic and Conversion Summit, because you're for sure going to go to that one. That's like top of the list, September, I think. And then pick 3 others. You're good to go.
Yeah. And Mark, I will do I've been working on this one pager just to make it look like simple, as easy as possible. It's a one pager where to find events, and then just like simple things that I have done around the last couple of years that worked. So I'll share one pager that you could just take a look at. I think maybe could help the community around how to find the right events. How do you think around them and all this other stuff? And maybe I'll just put a Loom video on it.
Love it. No, let's do better than that. Let's turn that into an article. Hassan's networking system 5,000. You have to add something in the end to make it sound fancy. No, do it, and then we'll put up as an article, get your download on there, send you some traffic. If you like for this instance, I would say if you had a landing page that was hassanbash.com/digital marketer, that would be the perfect spot, because I'd be like, oh, here it is.
Okay.
So
awesome. We'll do that. We'll work on something like that.
We're 5,000 in it though. I like that.
5,000. I added 5,000.
Or 40,000 if you want to be a nerd and go the Warhammer route. Any nerds in here? No nerds. All right, well, thank you so much, guys.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Yes.
Yes,
And are
thank
we
you.
back next week, Bonnie? Do we have
Yes. I'm not sure who Michelle has scheduled for next week, but we are scheduled for next week, same time, same channel.
perfect? Actually, I'm gonna look it up real quick just so everybody knows. Come on. Coming up on Zoom. Pretty sure we added in. It is 12:16. Oh no, next week. It's gonna be 12:30 is the next
Oh, that's right. Yes, next week is Christmas.
holiday. Yeah.
Yes.
And it's David Gonzalez,
David
founder
Gonzalez.
of Simply the Coolest. I like that. Nice. Well, thanks, y'all. Have a good holiday.
Thank you, everyone.